Is Buddhism proof that ghosts are real? The unsettling question of ghosts. The unsettling question of ghosts. Have you ever felt an eerie presence in the middle of the night? A shadow moving in the corner of your eye? Or perhaps you've heard inexplicable whispers in an empty room? The question of whether ghosts are real has fascinated humanity for centuries, weaving its way through folklore, religious traditions, and scientific inquiry. But what if we've been asking the wrong question all along? In Buddhism, the discussion about ghosts and spirits is not centered on fear or superstition but on understanding the deeper truths of existence. The Buddha himself did not dwell on supernatural narratives, but rather, he provided profound insights into the workings of karma, the cycle of rebirth, and the nature of suffering. In this exploration, we will uncover the Buddhist perspective on spirits, dispel common myths, and reveal how this knowledge can be applied to enrich our daily lives. The spirit world through a Buddhist lens. The spirit world through a Buddhist lens. The Buddhist view on ghosts, Pitas and their suffering. Buddhism acknowledges the existence of beings that may resemble what we commonly call ghosts. These beings, known as Pitas or hungry ghosts, are a category of existence within the Buddhist cosmology. Unlike the Western notion of malevolent spirits lurking in haunted houses, Pitas are beings suffering due to their past actions. Their existence is defined not by a thirst for vengeance but by an insatiable hunger and longing. Their suffering is not random or arbitrary but is a direct result of their past karma, shaped by actions in previous lives that were tainted by greed, hatred, or ignorance. The Pettavatthu, a Buddhist text within the Khuddaka Nikaya, recounts various stories of Pitas and how their actions in previous lives led them to a state of deprivation. Some are described as having huge, bloated bodies but tiny throats, rendering them eternally unable to satisfy their hunger. Others appear as shadowy figures, tormented by past misdeeds. Some suffer from constant thirst but can never drink, while others are bound by chains forged from their own greed and attachments. These depictions are not meant to instill fear but to illustrate the consequences of unwholesome actions, emphasizing the importance of ethical conduct, generosity, and wisdom. In Buddhist cosmology, the existence of Pitas is seen as one of the 6 realms of samsara, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Unlike in the human realm, where one still has the agency to generate good karma and cultivate wisdom, the Pita realm is a realm of suffering, often marked by desperation and regret. However, Buddhism does not see their fate as eternal. Beings in this state can still be aided through the virtuous actions of the living. The psychological and ethical implications of hungry ghosts. From a psychological perspective, the concept of hungry ghosts can be understood as a metaphor for human suffering driven by insatiable cravings and unresolved attachments. In modern Buddhist psychology, hungry ghosts are often used to symbolize people who are consumed by addictions, desires, or obsessions that can never be satisfied, whether it be wealth, power, or sensory pleasures. This suffering is not limited to the supernatural. It exists in the very fabric of human experience. Ethically, the concept of Pitas serves as a moral warning against excessive attachment, greed, and selfishness. The law of karma dictates that our actions have consequences that extend beyond this lifetime. Those who hoard wealth without generosity, deceive others for personal gain, or live in constant anger and resentment may find themselves in a state of suffering not only in this life but in future rebirths as well. Tirokuta Sutta, helping the spirits through merit. The Tirokuta Sutta offers an intriguing insight into the plight of Pitas and how they can find relief. It suggests that the living can transfer merit to their departed relatives through good deeds, prayers, and offerings. This act of transferring merit highlights the interconnectedness of all beings. Our actions, even after death, are not isolated but have a profound impact on those who have moved beyond this physical plane. Merit transfer, known as patadana, is a central practice in many Buddhist traditions, particularly in Theravada Buddhism. Offerings such as food, robes, and shelter made in the name of deceased relatives are believed to bring them relief. The belief is that while Pitas cannot directly create good karma for themselves, they can benefit from the merit generated by their living relatives, allowing them to be reborn into a better state of existence. This teaching reinforces the importance of generosity, dana, and compassion, karuna. It encourages the living to practice virtue not only for their own benefit but also as a means of uplifting those who have passed on. The interconnected nature of existence means that our positive actions ripple outward, affecting not just our immediate surroundings but also those in other realms of being. Transforming fear into compassion. Rather than perceiving spirits as terrifying entities, Buddhism frames them as beings caught in cycles of suffering. Understanding this shifts our response from fear to compassion. Instead of avoiding or fearing the spirit world, we are encouraged to engage in acts of kindness and mindfulness that benefit both the living and the deceased. The Buddhist approach to spirits and the supernatural is one of wisdom and equanimity. While other cultures may fear ghosts and seek to expel them, Buddhism teaches that they are suffering beings deserving of compassion. In many Buddhist countries, rituals are performed to honor and assist wandering spirits, ensuring they find peace rather than remain trapped in suffering. These include chanting sutras, making food offerings, and dedicating acts of kindness to them. This perspective also aligns with the Bodhisattva ideal in Mahayana Buddhism, where an enlightened being seeks to liberate all sentient beings from suffering, including those in the ghost realm. The famous Kayasitagarbha Bodhisattva, for example, is venerated for his vow to assist beings in the lower realms, including Pitas, until they find liberation. Lessons for modern practitioners. For modern Buddhists, the teachings on hungry ghosts serve as a reminder of the dangers of unchecked desire and attachment. In a world dominated by consumerism, material greed, and social comparison, it is easy to fall into a state of perpetual craving, never truly satisfied, always yearning for more. By practicing mindfulness and contentment, we avoid the fate of the Pitas and cultivate a sense of inner peace. Additionally, these teachings highlight the importance of ethical living. Every action, no matter how small, shapes our future. By engaging in acts of generosity, cultivating wisdom, and developing compassion, we ensure that our own path leads toward liberation rather than suffering. The notion that merit can be transferred also reminds us that our actions have far-reaching effects, encouraging us to live in a way that benefits not just ourselves but also those around us. In conclusion, the Buddhist perspective on spirits, and particularly hungry ghosts, provides a rich framework for understanding suffering, karma, and the power of compassionate action. Rather than dwelling in fear, Buddhism invites us to transform our understanding, recognizing that all beings, seen and unseen, are interconnected in the vast web of existence. Through wisdom, generosity, and loving kindness, we can help uplift not only ourselves but also those who wander the unseen realms of suffering. What happens after death? The Buddhist perspective. What happens after death? The Buddhist perspective. Rebirth and the nature of consciousness. The question of what happens after death has been at the heart of human curiosity. Unlike many religious traditions that propose a fixed soul transitioning to an afterlife, Buddhism introduces a more fluid and dynamic concept, the continuity of consciousness. The Buddha taught that death is not the end but a transition. Consciousness moves forward, shaped by the karma accumulated in the previous life. The Abhidhamma, a Buddhist philosophical text, describes how mental states at the moment of death significantly influence the next rebirth. If a person dies in a state of anger or attachment, they are more likely to be reborn in a lower realm. Conversely, Those who die with a mind filled with peace and compassion may find themselves reborn in a more favorable existence. This framework provides a moral and ethical compass, emphasizing the importance of cultivating a pure mind not just in life but especially in one's final moments. The Tibetan Buddhist tradition elaborates on this further in the concept of the bardo, an intermediate state between death and rebirth, where the mind experiences a series of visions and transformations before entering a new existence. Practitioners of Tibetan Buddhism engage in specific meditative practices, such as phowa, the transference of consciousness, to prepare for a conscious and favorable transition at the moment of death. Another crucial aspect of rebirth in Buddhism is dependent origination, pratityasamutpada, which teaches that life and death arise due to interconnected causes and conditions. There is no static entity or unchanging self that transmigrates, but rather an ever-evolving stream of consciousness conditioned by past actions and mental imprints. Understanding this principle leads to the realization that liberation from suffering is attainable through mindful engagement with the present moment, rather than attachment to notions of self or identity. The power of karma in shaping rebirth. Karma, kama in Pali, plays a fundamental role in determining the conditions of one's rebirth. Every action, mental, verbal, and physical, leaves an imprint on consciousness. The quality of these imprints dictates the nature of future experiences. This is why the Buddha emphasized the cultivation of wholesome thoughts, words, and deeds, the four immeasurables: loving kindness, metta, compassion, karuna, sympathetic joy, mudita, and equanimity, upekkha, are central practices in Buddhism that generate positive karmic seeds, ensuring favorable rebirths and ultimately aiding in the path to enlightenment. Conversely, negative karma generated by greed, hatred, and delusion leads to unfavorable rebirths. The realms of existence in Buddhist cosmology, such as the realm of hungry ghosts, preta, animals, and hell beings, are considered manifestations of unwholesome karmic accumulations. However, no state is permanent, and through diligent practice, transformation is always possible. Even beings in the most unfortunate circumstances can cultivate wisdom and compassion, thereby altering their karmic trajectory. Breaking free from the cycle. The cycle of rebirth, known as samsara, is fueled by craving and ignorance. The attachment to material possessions, relationships, and even our identity perpetuates this cycle. The concept of pitas, hungry ghosts, serves as a stark reminder of what happens when desire and greed become the dominant forces in one's life. However, the Buddha also provided a path to break free from this cycle, the Eightfold Path, which emphasizes right thought, right action, and right mindfulness. The Eightfold Path is divided into three essential areas of practice. 1. Ethical conduct, sila, right speech, right action, and right livelihood encourage moral discipline and harmony in one's interactions with others. 2. Mental discipline, samadhi, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration cultivate mental clarity and inner stability, reducing attachment to transient experiences. 3. Wisdom, prajna, right view and right intention develop a deep understanding of impermanence, suffering, and non-self, leading to liberation. By following this path, practitioners gradually weaken the defilements of greed, hatred, and delusion. The ultimate goal is to achieve nirvana, a state beyond birth and death, where suffering ceases entirely. Nirvana is not a place or a heaven but rather the extinguishing of the causes of suffering. Akin to a flame being blown out, it represents the culmination of wisdom, where one transcends the illusions of self and attains unshakable peace. The role of mindfulness and meditation in the death process. Buddhist traditions emphasize preparing for death through mindfulness and meditation. Contemplating mortality is a core practice, helping individuals recognize the impermanence of life and detach from clinging to the body or worldly achievements. In Theravada Buddhism, Practitioners engage in maranasati, mindfulness of death, reflecting on the certainty of death and the uncertainty of its timing. This practice fosters a sense of urgency to live virtuously and maintain awareness in all actions. In Mahayana and Vajrayana traditions, advanced practitioners prepare for death through visualization techniques, mantra recitation, and deity yoga. The Tibetan Book of the Dead, Bardo Thodol, describes detailed guidance for navigating the post-death state, assisting consciousness in attaining a favorable rebirth or even enlightenment. Some highly realized beings, known as tulkus, are believed to have control over their rebirth, choosing their next incarnation to continue benefiting sentient beings. Compassion as the key to liberation. The Buddha's teachings highlight that the way we live influences not only our death but also our future existences. Cultivating compassion and selflessness reduces suffering and fosters inner freedom. The Bodhisattva ideal in Mahayana Buddhism encourages practitioners to dedicate their lives to the liberation of all beings rather than seeking personal enlightenment alone. By integrating mindfulness, ethical conduct, and wisdom, individuals can transform their relationship with death from fear to understanding. Instead of perceiving it as an end, they see it as a continuation of consciousness shaped by past and present choices. This perspective fosters a life of purpose, kindness, and spiritual progress, ultimately leading to liberation from the cycle of suffering. While Buddhism does not offer a singular answer to what happens after death, it provides a structured framework for understanding the continuation of consciousness and the moral responsibility each individual holds in shaping their future. By living mindfully, practicing compassion, and engaging in meditative discipline, one can navigate life and death with wisdom and grace, ultimately moving toward the cessation of suffering and the realization of ultimate peace. Are ghostly encounters real? Science meets spirituality. Are ghostly encounters real? Science meets spirituality. Meditation and altered perception. Many individuals, particularly Buddhist monks and meditation practitioners, report encounters with spirits during deep meditation. These experiences often take the form of vivid visions, encounters with unseen beings, or sensations of an expanded awareness that transcends the physical world. In Buddhist tradition, these occurrences are not dismissed as mere hallucinations but are considered manifestations of deeper layers of consciousness. Neuroscience offers an interesting explanation for these experiences. Studies in neuroplasticity suggest that meditation alters brain activity, expanding consciousness and perception. Meditation has been shown to increase activity in the temporoparietal junction, an area associated with spatial awareness and self-perception. Deep meditative states, such as those practiced in Vipassana and Zen traditions, may unlock cognitive abilities that are normally dormant, allowing practitioners to perceive subtle energies that are otherwise unnoticed in everyday life. This doesn't necessarily confirm the existence of ghosts but highlights how human consciousness can perceive dimensions beyond normal sensory experiences. In Tibetan Buddhist teachings, there is the concept of the bardo, a transitional state between death and rebirth where the consciousness may encounter various entities. Whether these entities exist externally or are projections of the mind remains a philosophical question. However, from a Buddhist standpoint, the key lesson is to recognize these experiences as transient and not to be attached to them. Scientific theories on paranormal experiences. There are scientific theories attempting to explain ghost sightings and supernatural encounters. Electromagnetic field disturbances, infrasound, and sleep paralysis are commonly cited as potential explanations. Research has suggested that exposure to certain electromagnetic frequencies can induce feelings of an unseen presence, paranoia, or even visual hallucinations. Similarly, infrasound, low-frequency sound waves that are below human hearing thresholds, can cause feelings of unease, anxiety, and even spectral illusions. Sleep paralysis, another well-documented phenomenon, occurs when a person wakes up but remains in a state where the body is immobile. leading to intense hallucinations of shadowy figures or supernatural beings. This condition has been reported across cultures and has likely contributed to many ghost stories and night terrors. However, these theories do not fully negate the spiritual interpretations of such experiences. In many Buddhist and spiritual traditions, what science calls hallucinations or perceptual distortions may instead be seen as glimpses into different dimensions of reality. Buddhist philosophy does not rigidly separate subjective experience from objective truth, rather, it considers perception itself to be a fluid and transformative process that reflects the mind's own karmic imprints. Buddhism and the nature of consciousness. Rather than engaging in a debate of science versus spirituality, Buddhism teaches us to focus on the mind's power to shape reality. The existence of ghosts in a tangible form is secondary to how we understand our consciousness and actions. The Buddhist concept of dependent origination, pratityasamutpada, suggests that nothing exists independently, and all phenomena arise due to interdependent causes and conditions. In this sense, ghosts, whether real or perceived, are part of the interconnected nature of existence. Moreover, many Buddhist schools teach that our perception is shaped by our past karma. In this view, encounters with spirits or supernatural beings are not arbitrary but are linked to one's own karmic past. Some traditions, such as Pure Land Buddhism, emphasize that those with deep attachments or unresolved emotions may become spirits after death, wandering in the intermediate state until their karma is resolved. From a practical standpoint, Buddhist practice encourages individuals to cultivate mindfulness and compassion rather than fear or obsession over supernatural experiences. Instead of seeking to prove or disprove the existence of ghosts, practitioners are guided to develop wisdom and equanimity, recognizing that all experiences, mundane or extraordinary, are impermanent and conditioned by the mind. Bridging science and spirituality. The intersection of science and spirituality in understanding paranormal experiences offers an opportunity for deeper reflection. Rather than seeing these perspectives as opposing forces, we can view them as complementary approaches to understanding human consciousness. Neuroscience provides insights into how the brain processes extraordinary experiences, while spiritual traditions offer frameworks for interpreting these phenomena in a meaningful way. As the study of consciousness continues to evolve, both scientific and spiritual perspectives may converge in ways we cannot yet foresee. Whether ghosts exist as external entities or as projections of the mind, the key takeaway is the transformative power of awareness. By cultivating mindfulness and wisdom, we can navigate both the seen and unseen aspects of existence with greater clarity and peace. Overcoming fear. The Buddhist approach to spirits. Overcoming fear. The Buddhist approach to spirits. The role of mindfulness in dispelling fear. One of the most powerful teachings of Buddhism is that fear is a creation of the mind. The fear of ghosts, the unknown, or death itself stems from ignorance. The Buddha encouraged the practice of mindfulness to dismantle these fears. By observing our thoughts without attachment, we begin to understand that fear is just another mental construct. Mindfulness, sati, is the practice of being fully present in the moment, observing thoughts, emotions, and external experiences with equanimity. Through meditation and self-inquiry, practitioners learn to detach from fear-driven narratives. In the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha describes the four foundations of mindfulness: mindfulness of the body, feelings, mind, and mental objects. By cultivating these four aspects, one gains insight into the impermanence of fear, recognizing it as a passing phenomenon rather than an absolute reality. Furthermore, Buddhist teachings suggest that fear arises from clinging to an illusory self. The realization of anatta, non-self, helps dissolve the ego-driven fears that plague the mind. When one truly sees that fear is conditioned by past experiences and mental formations, it loses its grip. This perspective not only frees individuals from the fear of spirits but also fosters a fearless approach to all aspects of life. The power of loving kindness, metta, in transforming spirits. A unique Buddhist practice involves sending metta, loving kindness, to all beings, including spirits. Instead of fearing supernatural entities, one can extend compassion toward them. Many monks who encounter spirits during meditation respond not with fear, but with prayers and acts of merit. Metta meditation is a transformative practice that begins by generating unconditional goodwill toward oneself, then extending it to others, including unseen beings. The Karaniya Metta Sutta emphasizes the importance of radiating loving kindness toward all sentient beings, without discrimination. In Buddhist cosmology, some spirits, pretas or hungry ghosts, suffer due to past negative karma, and by offering metta, one provides them with the opportunity for liberation. There are numerous accounts of monks and lay practitioners encountering spirits and using metta to pacify them. Instead of performing exorcisms or engaging in confrontational rituals, they focus on generating compassion and dedicating merits to these beings. The idea is that spirits, like humans, are bound by their past actions and emotions. Many remain in suffering due to unresolved attachments or grievances, and kindness can help release them from their anguish. The power of compassion and positive intentions is often underestimated. Numerous spiritual traditions across cultures advocate the practice of exorcisms or banishments. But Buddhism teaches that transformation is achieved through understanding and kindness, not confrontation. This perspective aligns with the broader Buddhist principle of non-violence, ahimsa, and the belief that all beings, regardless of their form, deserve compassion and an opportunity to evolve. Fearlessness through wisdom and right understanding. In addition to mindfulness and loving kindness, wisdom, prajna, plays a crucial role in overcoming fear. Buddhism teaches that fear stems from ignorance, avidya, and through deep understanding, one can dismantle the illusions that give rise to it. The Buddha emphasized right understanding, samma ditthi, as a component of the Noble Eightfold Path, encouraging individuals to cultivate insight into the true nature of existence. When fear of spirits arises, one can reflect on the Buddhist view of impermanence, anicca. Everything in existence is transient, including fear, spirits, and even the self that perceives them. By meditating on impermanence, individuals can free themselves from the grip of fear and develop a sense of inner peace. Additionally, understanding karma and the law of cause and effect can help reduce fear. In Buddhist belief, spirits are often linked to unresolved karma, and by acting with integrity and merit, one naturally attracts positive circumstances rather than negative encounters. Instead of fearing the unknown, one learns to live ethically, cultivating good deeds that ensure harmony in both the seen and unseen worlds. Bridging science and spirituality in understanding fear. While Buddhist philosophy provides a profound framework for understanding fear, scientific research on fear and consciousness offers complementary insights. Neuroscience suggests that fear is rooted in the amygdala, a part of the brain responsible for processing threats. However, studies show that mindfulness meditation can rewire neural pathways, reducing fear-based reactions and promoting a sense of calm. Psychological research also aligns with Buddhist practices, demonstrating that exposure therapy, gradually confronting one's fears, diminishes their intensity over time. This parallels the Buddhist approach of facing fear through mindfulness and insight. The combination of scientific knowledge and Buddhist wisdom reinforces the idea that fear is not an inherent truth but a conditioned response that can be transformed. By integrating these perspectives, individuals can cultivate a fearless mindset, whether in dealing with supernatural fears or life's challenges. The Buddhist approach provides not only a philosophical perspective but also practical techniques for overcoming fear through mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom. Ultimately, fear dissolves when one embraces the transient nature of all experiences and cultivates a heart filled with loving kindness. Conclusion. What we can learn from the spirit world. Conclusion. What we can learn from the spirit world. The Buddhist perspective on ghosts and spirits is not about superstition or horror, but about karma, rebirth, and compassion. Whether one believes in spirits or not, the core teachings remain invaluable. Our actions have consequences that extend beyond this lifetime. Fear is a product of ignorance and can be overcome through mindfulness and wisdom. Compassion has transformative power, not just for the living but for all beings across different planes of existence. So, the next time you hear a mysterious sound or feel an unexplained presence, instead of fear, consider a different perspective. What if that presence is a soul longing for understanding and kindness? What if, instead of running away, you could help? By embracing the Buddhist view of ghosts, not as frightening phantoms but as reminders of karma and compassion, we gain not just knowledge but a new way of living. One filled with peace, awareness, and a deeper connection to all beings, seen and unseen. Final thought. If we shift our focus from fearing the unknown to understanding it, we might just find that ghosts, whether real or metaphorical, are not here to haunt us, but to teach us valuable lessons about ourselves.